welcome to my top 50 films of 2014. I finally got around to doing this. It's taken me so long because I've had other things going on, and also I kind of wanted to watch 100 films from 2014, which is ridiculous, but I got really close. I was about 88, 89 films from 2014 that I watched, but it's time to do it. It's time to get out of the way. I won't be doing a top 20 films of 2014 because that actually didn't do very well last year, and the top 50 films of 2013 did really well, although that was like an hour and 15 minutes. Ridiculous, but I'm going to try to make this very quick and not really go into the plots or anything like that. If you'd like me to talk about any film in more depth, I'm glad to do that if you leave me a comment. First of all, notable mentions, films I really liked this year, or last year I should say, but didn't quite make the cut, and also there are things about them that could have been better as well. Automata, 22 Jump Street, Tusk, The Drift, which is an independent sci-fi film, Maleficent, Obvious Child, Life After Beth, The Lego Movie, Divergent, Grudge Match, Horns, Transcendence, Son of Batman, Hector and the Search for Happiness, and Oculus. So that's 15 kind of honourable mentions there, but getting right into the top 50, at number 50 is Angry Video Game Nerd the Movie, starring James Rolfe as the nerd himself, which was a web series that ran, I think, from 2004 until now. Became a huge kind of internet kind of phenomenon, and it turned into a feature-length film. I donated money towards the budget of that film, and yeah, it's not great, but I really enjoyed it, you know, and it's kind of the ultimate kind of fan film, as in a film for fans, you know. And yeah, I really did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it wasn't great, maybe a bit too long, and some jokes didn't hit and things like that, but I was still a big fan of it. I know people really didn't like it, but I really did like it. Number 49, They Came Together, a romantic comedy starring Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler, I want to say. It just seemed like a general romantic comedy, so we watched it for no other reason but that. But it actually turned out to be a complete and utter satire of romantic comedies, and for that I love it. Really funny, really plays up some of the kind of cliches of rom-coms basically, and hilarious, brilliant. It was a real interesting original look at, you know, the rom-com, and really enjoyed it. Number 48, Virunga, Oscar-nominated documentary about the Virunga National State Park or something like that in Africa, in Congo. Great documentary, very tense at times, deals with a very real current situation, and some just beautiful stuff with the mountain gorillas that they have there, the very few that they have left. Number 47, A Long Way Down. I was not expecting this film to be as enjoyable as it was. I don't think it's a great film, but I think the performances are so good and enjoyable. It's just one of those nice films to watch, and it's about 4 people who all meet on top of a building in London on New Year's Eve, about to kill each other. Kill themselves. I'll leave that in. They're about to kill themselves, and they all kind of stop each other from doing it. They make a pact to not kill themselves. Jesus Christ. And they kind of become friendly. Bit unrealistic, but a lot of fun. Pierce Brosnan, Aaron Paul, I forget the British girl's name. No. What is her name? I've completely forgotten it. Imogen Poots, I'm pretty sure. And Toni Collette. So, you know, an older man and woman, and a younger man and woman as well. And they had great chemistry together. I just really enjoyed it. Again, quite unrealistic, but it's just a really good film. And I got a Facebook message, so I'm just checking it now. Okay. Next we have 46, Frank, which starred, what's his name, Michael Fassbender, underneath the kind of Frank Sidebottom mask, which was ridiculous, but the whole film, pretty much, he's underneath that mask. And it's a weird one, but I really liked it. There was a lot of interesting things to it that I found quite captivating to watch. Just the fact that Fassbender kind of created a character that you found interesting to watch without seeing his face at all was quite something, I think. But yeah, I really liked Frank. Number 45, Guardians of the Galaxy. This would probably be on many people's top 10 lists. Wasn't quite there for me. Some of the space battles just seemed so uninspired to me. They just seemed so like we've seen this stuff before. But I think it's the point now where it's hard to do those kind of things and make it seem original or special. But I love a lot of things about Guardians of the Galaxy. The soundtrack obviously is great. You know, characters like Drax and Groot and Rocket are great. Not really a huge fan of what's his name, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. Not really a fan of him as an actor, really. That's probably why it's not high up on my list. But I really enjoy it a lot. and yeah, a really fun film. It actually gets better the more I watch it. I watched it again last year with my mum, and she was a big fan of it. 44, I do like to include some of the, and this is the only one that made it to the list, but whenever WWE produce like a documentary or something on a wrestler, I include that as a film, because to me it's a film, you know, it's a documentary film. And this one is Daniel Bryan's Journey to WrestleMania, which follows Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30 last year in 2014 in New Orleans, and basically also covers his career and kind of his journey up till that point. It's a really good look at his career, and also the kind of biggest night of his life, winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. And I was there live for that, and I appear in this documentary I think twice in the crowd, so that's always cool. Number 43, Selma, Oscar-nominated film about the march to Selma that Martin Luther King led in 1965, was it? Something like in the 60s. Great film. Really enjoyed the way it explored, you know, Martin Luther King's ideal of non-violent protest, and I found it to be very powerful. 42, Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Very weird film. Great performances from Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays kind of a guy who finds his doppelganger, who turned out to be an actor, and so very interesting mind games going on in the film, and some weird stuff towards the end. I think the weirdness lost me a little bit, but I still thought it was a very captivating film. 41, I Am Santa Claus, great documentary that Mick Foley is in, but if you take him out of the equation, it's still just as good in my opinion, and it follows, I think, 4 or 5 Santas who make their living as Santa in malls and things like that, and it shows their process. You know, you got these really old guys who do it, you got guys who may be middle-aged who do it, and kind of, it was just, I really enjoyed it. Heartwarming, life-affirming, just about these really genuine, nice guys, and yeah, for me, it's one of those ones you should definitely check out. If you're a fan of Christmas, you know, if you have that kind of you know, a warm heart and stuff, I think you'll definitely enjoy it. Number 40, Big Hero 6, great animated film, lots of fun. I love the visual design and stuff, but for me, Baymax stole the whole show. He's basically, I think he's like my favorite character in an animated film since Wall-E. Just really great, simple but brilliant character, and kind of outshines the rest of the film. 39, How to Train Your Dragon 2. I thought it was better than the first one, just built on what made the first one really good and just took it to new levels. Really enjoyed that film. Number 38, The Double, film by Richard Ayoade, who I'm a big fan of. Loved his debut film Submarine from 2010. This stars Jesse Eisenberg and Mia Wasikowska, blah 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 blah, and they were both great in this film. Again, a film about a guy who has a doppelganger. But this is a very weird film. It felt like a Terry Gilliam film at times, and it was just very very claustrophobic and dark and interesting. Really liked it. 37, The Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies. Really loved that one. I know that some people weren't a fan, again, but for me, I just really loved every second, and the fact that it was the shortest Middle-earth film as well. It just pounded along at a great pace, and I just enjoyed all the little kind of movieisms about it, you know, like the fight at the end between Thorin and the Pale Orc. I thought was brilliant, even though it was a bit movieized and stuff, but yeah, a great end to an incredible cinematic achievement that was the Middle-earth trilogies. Number 36, The Guest. Dan Stevens, I think, is the guy who plays the main guy in this. Very interesting film. It's almost like a home invasion film without the home invasion, but very kind of like a psychological kind of thriller. But it kind of descends into maybe too silly of a place near the end, but I really loved it. And yet, maybe it takes some cues from Drive in terms of using music to really enhance things in a different way. But again, it's kind of taking what kind of Nicholas Winding Refn did with Drive and kind of transposes it onto itself. But I did really enjoy it and thought it was yeah, a really fun ride, but dark at the same time. But Dan Stevens was incredible. Number 35, Dallas Buyers Club, great drama. Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto both won Oscars for this. I would actually say Jared Leto, probably not really. You know, he was good, wasn't like amazing, didn't blow me away. Matthew McConaughey, I thought his performance in this film was so much better than the film itself. The film itself, I didn't find that, you know, oh, 10 out of 10 masterpieces. Maybe some people did, you know, and but Matthew McConaughey was definitely great in it, and a great story as well. And it's great that it's told and kind of put in that place. You know, I like it when a true story is immortalized in film form, especially with great actors, so it can be remembered. You know, in a mainstream kind of way, if you get what I mean. But I definitely think Matthew McConaughey was better in Interstellar from 2014 as opposed to Dallas Buyers Club, just my opinion. Number 34, The Babadook. Again, people love it, people hate it. I love it, but I wouldn't say it's a horror film. It's more of a psychological film, psychological thriller, again, to go back to that term. It really, to me, is about mental illness and depression, and I found that to be really interesting and kind of, not moving, but emotional at times, maybe. Yeah, really enjoyed The Babadook. Creepy, but a bit deeper than maybe what some people would be expecting, and it's not just a horror film. I wouldn't even call it a horror film. Number 33, Godzilla. Really great blockbuster kind of film. Just so much fun to watch in the cinema. Really enjoyed it. Just great fun, really. 32, Edge of Tomorrow. Same kind of deal, but with a smart twist on it, and I really enjoyed the story. And I think maybe the last 10 minutes I wasn't a huge fan of, but the rest were just so good. You know, Tom Cruise was great, and Emily Blunt was great as well, in kind of a badass female role. Great special effects, and yeah, really cool. Number 31, The Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese film. Leonardo DiCaprio, fantastic in the film. Lots of great performances. I mean, literally, the supporting cast in this film is just incredible. There's so many great actors and so many like minor roles and things. I won't even begin to go into them because I'll forget someone. But a great kind of 3-hour odyssey through just absolute pure indulgence, and I think that's where it lost me to the point of being like one of those, you know, best films of the year. But I understand why it was showing so much of the indulgence that made the I forget the guy's name now, made him who he was at the time, I guess. And but yeah, very good film, and almost made my top 30. Number 30 itself is Wild, starring Reese Witherspoon. She plays, another true story, she plays a woman who trekked across 1,000 miles of America, and after a troubled past, and I really liked how you see her journey, almost a bit like Into the Wild, that film, but then it's kind of intercut with the flashbacks to her troubled past, and I really enjoyed the way it was done. The editing was fantastic, especially towards the end. I thought they did a great job with mixing the two kind of timelines, or the many timelines, I guess you could say. And I thought Reese Witherspoon was great. Really enjoyed that one. Number 29, The Imitation Game. Benedict Cumberbatch is great in this. Keira Knightley is great in this. Another great true story. The score was amazing. It seemed like there was only one theme that was written for it. Maybe it was like 3 minutes long and they just used it all the time, but it was just so damn good. Great story. It's one of those films that, you know, I don't want to watch all the time, but really just the story really grabs you, I think, and it's an incredible one. It really is. Number 28, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Saw this in New York in like a luxury theater on like reclining leather seats. It was awesome, but really top tier Marvel film. Absolutely loved it, and these are now the guys who are going to direct the next two Avengers films, Infinity War Part 1 and 2, so it's in good hands because it was a great film. 27, Mockingjay Part 1. Absolutely loved this film. I thought it was really emotional, and again, just building on what Catching Fire did. It's like a political kind of what's the word? Political film. You know, it just like a social commentary in a way. You know, I really enjoyed it, and it didn't just do what Catching Fire did. It had new elements to it, and it is, you know, the first Hunger Games film that we've seen without a Hunger Games event. So they did really well, I think, and it wasn't for me just a build up to the next part. And yeah, I don't like them splitting the last book of a series into two films, but in this one I just thought it was really well done. Number 26, St. Vincent, starring Bill Murray, Naomi Watts, and Melissa McCarthy. And Melissa McCarthy put me off this film. I was like, oh god, but she plays a straight woman in this. She really does. I need to get a drink because my throat's hurting. But Melissa McCarthy really doesn't play her usual self in this. There's maybe one moment where she goes into that Melissa McCarthy mode, and I was like, oh god. But for the rest of it, I actually really liked her in this film as the straight woman in the cast, I guess you could say. Whereas Naomi Watts plays like a Russian like hooker / stripper, and she was great. I really enjoyed her. I mean, she really looked like a tramp. I mean, no offense, but you know, she did her job. And Bill Murray was brilliant in the film as Vincent, and the little kid as well. Really nice story. Definitely predictable, but sometimes that's not a bad thing. Sometimes something that's predictable and familiar, if done well, You know, you don't need to kind of say, oh, it's predictable. You know where it's going, but you enjoy it for what it is. And I really, really loved it. And the end credits are great. And if you don't sit through the end credits, like the whole thing, then there's something wrong with you. Even though it's not really that interesting, but it was just kind of like, we just sat there just watching it, just enjoying it. It's a weird one, but you'll get it if you've seen the film or when you see the film. Now the top 25. At 25, X-Men Days of Future Past. Love this film, and I have all the ratings up for these, and this is when it gets to like 9 out of 10, is with this one. It's just one of the best superhero films. Well, yeah, I might put it in like my top 5 maybe. Well, thinking about the Dark Knight films. Top 10 at least. It's a brilliant, brilliant film. Lots of great action, but a great story as well. Definitely some holes, and I really feel like they should. I mean, it could have been one of the great superhero films if they tied up all the loose ends, but they didn't quite get there, and they had such a free reign to do it. But either way, great seeing the old cast back, great seeing the new cast just killing it again. You got the great Quicksilver scene as well, which for me is probably the best scene of a superhero power being exercised ever. Absolutely awesome, great scene, and great film. Number 24, The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, documentary following Studio Ghibli during probably one of its final years, where, and again I'm losing my voice, excuse me, I apologise, because Hayao Miyazaki, the great animation director, is making his last film, The Wind Rises, and then kind of on the other side of Studio Ghibli you have Isao Takahata making The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, and it was like mainly about Miyazaki. Takahata's in the film for like 5 minutes. It's like a two-hour documentary, but it was really interesting to see the way Miyazaki works, and the style of the documentary was very fly on the wall, not very intrusive, with some great kind of cinematography every now and again. And I just really enjoyed learning more about Miyazaki the man and the animator and his method of storytelling, how they came about the voice casting, things like that. But now that I've seen The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, I really wish we'd seen more about the making of that, but I know that there is like another documentary about that film, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. Only the thing is, you get like the full version in Japan, but like a severely like cut in half version in the UK and the US, so it looks like we won't get to see the full version unfortunately, but this was really great. Number 23, Blue Ruin, a revenge thriller, a real slow burner as well. Really, really enjoyed this. Brutal, but captivating, and yeah, just excellent. Number 22, The Raid 2. This was it was slow, but the action scenes were just so incredible. And once you get into it, and once you get your head around the story, because it gets a bit complicated, I think for me. It took me about half an hour to kind of fully get into the swing of the story. But for me, there's just some incredible direction there, and the fight scenes, of course, are just absolutely top tier. Some of the best ones you'll ever see, including the end fight between kind of two of the main characters in the film. Then you got some kind of great badass side characters like Hammer Girl and the guy with the baseball bat. And now I can't get this thing off my screen. It's really annoying. Okay, there we go. Number 21, The Skeleton Twins, a comedy drama starring so many actors running through my head right now. Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader, who play brother and sister, and Bill Hader's character has just gone through a very tough time in his life. He's a gay man, and he goes to kind of live with his sister for a bit, and she's similarly going through a very tough time, and her partner is played by Luke Wilson, who I really loved in the film. His character could have been such a badly acted character who doesn't have that much to him, but he made it so good because Luke Wilson's great, and it was really good to see him in a role like that again. But Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig were fantastic, and again, it just shows that comedians sometimes can be really great dramatic actors too. This had a real heart to it, and it was moving, but really funny at the same time. Now into the top 20, The Grand Budapest Hotel, number 20. Brilliant Wes Anderson film, what more can I say? I've done a review of it, and a review of the Blu-ray, so you can check out my full thoughts on that if you want. Number 19, Nightcrawler. Brilliant performance by Jake Gyllenhaal. Absolutely loved the feel of this, the streets of LA at night. Brilliantly directed. Great soundtrack, or score I should say. The only thing I didn't like was the ending. The ending kind of killed it. Was a little flat for me. I understand what they were going for, but it was, yeah, but overall I still really loved it. Number 18, sorry, Love is Strange, starring John Lithgow and Alfred Molina as an old gay couple who've been together nearly 40 years. They finally get married in the state of New York, and and then they get kicked out. When they get kicked out, they have to leave their apartment because Alfred Molina's character is a music teacher at a Catholic school, and when he gets married to a gay man, it kind of solidifies himself as an official homosexual, so they can't allow him to continue teaching there. And it's a really sad moment in the film, really, but it's about them living with different sides of their friends and family and not being able to live together, and how they struggle with just not being around each other all the time. And it was such, again, Love is Strange, it's such a great look at love, a tender look at love, and the fact that they're two old gay men means absolutely nothing, you know, in terms of like, oh, it's a gay film. No, it's just about a relationship, it really is. And it was so sweet and so touching and emotional, but, you know, funny as well. Very low key, not much happens, but I really loved it. And for me, Alfred Molina and John Lithgow, they just felt like they were a couple. They were so convincing. They didn't overdo it. They just committed 100%, and it was so real and authentic, and made the film work so much more than it already was with everything else that was going on. Number 17, Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson as his operating service, his OS. The kind of artificial intelligence coming out of his new phone, set in kind of a, you know, undetermined future, not too long from our own, I guess. It's not like super futuristic, but slightly futuristic. I love the production design of this film, looked gorgeous, and great performances. Again, Scarlett Johansson was fantastic in a role where it was just her voice, and Joaquin Phoenix similarly was brilliant. Really enjoyed this different romantic drama kind of film. Then at number 16 we have Locke, starring what's his name again? Forget, Tom Hardy, and he is the only physical person in the film. He plays a Welsh construction worker, or kind of a foreman, I guess, who oversees kind of concrete pouring in building construction, and he's driving down the motorway. And I won't tell you why he's driving down the motorway, but it's for a very special reason. And the reason he's driving down the motorway kind of puts him at a crossroads in his life where his job is on the line, his home life is on the line, and he's constantly phoning people through the kind of the phone on his dashboard, you know, with the loudspeaker kind of going on. So the whole film is 90 minutes of Tom Hardy driving down the motorway at night in the UK, just having phone conversations, and it was utterly brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Number 15, Predestination. Very cool sci-fi thriller that stars Ethan Hawke, and I forget the woman's name, but there's a woman in the film, and she was brilliant, and so is Ethan Hawke, and their roles were kind of very vital to each other. It's mainly those two characters sitting down in a bar talking, and but then so much more stuff happens. It's not just two characters in a bar, but they kind of frame certain things, flashbacks and flash forwards and stuff, and it revolves around time travel, and you know, kind of there are these people out there who kind of travel through time to fix things that have happened. Very interesting film, great twists and turns, and it just takes you all over the place, but is ultimately for me a really underrated film. Absolutely loved it. Then we have number 14, that was Gone Girl. Sorry, I had to check something else. I've got stuff going on, I just can't find a free minute to do this video, it seems. Number 14, Gone Girl. Absolutely loved it. David Fincher film. The score was amazing. Like, it was really different. It achieved the same kind of feeling if you'd gone with the traditional score that would fit that scene, but it was like more of calm music with maybe disturbing stuff that's going on. Hard to explain, but it made it creepy, you know. Or not creepy, but unsettling. I don't know. It's hard to describe on this one. I'm just going to have to kind of tap out on coming up with a good way to describe the way the score works. But it just really worked for me. Great performances. Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike were great. Some other good performances, but yeah, great mystery. Really enjoyed the way it played out, and just, yeah, absolutely awesome. Number 13 is a documentary, Life Itself, about the late Roger Ebert, the film critic. Very moving film that is about a guy who loved film so much that he made films his life, even though he wasn't a director or anything like that. But it is also just about life itself as well, cheesy as it is to say, and it's an absolutely great documentary. Really moving stuff. Number 12, a Norwegian film called Blind. about a woman who loses her sight and basically starts creating this world around her, and it's a very interesting film. The only thing I didn't like about it was the fact that there is a scene in the film where she's describing this guy who is a sex addict, and it does like this montage of like hardcore pornography on the screen, and for me it just kind of ruins, you know, the film in a little bit, kind of, because you can't just show it to your parents and say, oh, watch this, this is a really good film. Can't do it. You can't really watch it with other people and say, oh, let's watch this film, it's really good. You can't do it. Hardcore pornography in a film just seemed like a weird choice to me. I understand what they're trying to do, but this for me pushed it past the... Yeah, it could have been even better without it, I think, but even with it, it was so damn good, and I loved the way it played with the narrative and the characters and the perception of things that, for me, it was almost top 10 worthy. Number 11, Lucy, the Scarlett Johansson film about a girl who inadvertently gets put into this kind of this drug ring in, I think it's in some Asian country, I forget which, Hong Kong or something. She's studying there and she gets into some bad stuff, and basically she wakes up and they've put drugs in her belly, which is fucking chilling, by the way. Really creeped me out. Like, that in itself was just scary. The fact that you could just get into the wrong circumstance and you are fucked, you know what I mean? But she gets beaten up and the drugs in her belly, the bag breaks, and just one part of this new, experimental drug will just like blow your mind, and it all unleashes into her body system, and suddenly she begins to gain more control of her brain. They have this thing, oh, you only use 10% of your brain. And the thing I didn't like about the receptions of this film was people were like, oh, doesn't Luc Besson know that the 10% of your brain thing has been proven to be not true? Oh, so why is he making a film about it? Because it's a fucking film, you know? I don't get why people were hung up on that. It's obviously not supposed to be a realistic film. But anyway, she gains all these powers, and I just loved it from start to finish. It was a great ride, it was always different, lots of stuff going on. And ultimately at the end, it was just really just a visual treat, and I love the little button on the end, which I'm not sure if I've talked about it before yet. Might have done a review on it, but either way, really, really loved it. Absolutely awesome film. Number 10, the top 10 of 2014, as far as I'm concerned, 2 Days, One Night. This stars Marion Cotillard, who was nominated for an Oscar for the role, and she's a woman who might get sacked from her job. And so she has a weekend, 2 days and 1 night, to go around to all of her colleagues and ask them if they would reconsider the decision to fire her, because it's down to all of her colleagues. Right, she gets fired and you get a raise, or you don't get a raise and she stays. And so it's a very emotional film because she's, she just recovered from a recent bout of severe depression and had it off work. And you find out more about the story when she meets all the people, but every time she goes to meet someone, you're like, what's going to happen, what's going to happen? And it is such a simple, French drama, just camera following her around, no real fancy directing, but the performances sell it, and it was just a great film. Number 9, Snowpiercer. Bong Joon-ho, is that the Korean director who made this? A great, interesting film about this kind of future society where the world is frozen over basically, and all that's left is this train that goes around the whole world and has been doing it for years, and there is basically the last vestiges of humanity are all on this train, and at the back of the train you have the poor kind of lower class, and at the front of the train you have like the high class, and there's like a class system within the train. And Chris Evans is in this, Captain America, and he was brilliant. Great performance, and there's other great performances as well. Tilda Swinton is maddeningly crazy and awesome. Such a great concept. John Hurt is in this as well, and great action, and again, this is all set on a train, and I'm a sucker for train movies because I love trains, but this to me was just so pleasing on so many levels, but went to a deep place as well, and overall, yeah, it was, I feel like I'm saying this a lot, but great film. Then we have number 8, and I'm going to take another swig of water. I feel like I've been talking so much, and I haven't done a video for ages, so maybe I'm not used to it. Sorry for keeping this in, but I don't have time to edit or anything. I'm just going to lump this in and upload it straight away. Number 8, Under the Skin. Excuse me. This was an experience, absolutely brilliant, and for the record, I'm rating this a 9.5, and I have done for the past, up until Life Itself. These have all been 9.5s for me. Under the Skin, Scarlett Johansson plays a a woman who descends on Earth, basically, although it's never explained why or how, and she kind of seduces these men, and kind of lots of stuff goes on. It is just a trip, it really is, and I just found it so interesting and captivating, and not because she's naked in the film, by any stretch of the imagination. Honestly, it was really hard to take your eyes away from, and again, not because she was naked in the film, but the visuals are very interesting. People were comparing it to Kubrick, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, but the director had a real great eye for visual storytelling, not a lot of dialogue in the film, and it just takes you somewhere interesting, and somewhere I haven't really been taken with a film before, and for that I've got to give credit, but not just give credit, it was a great film. Number 7, The Wind Rises, Hayao Miyazaki's final film, which is about a real man in World War II Japan who was a designer of airplanes, and in the film he kind of dreamed of being a pilot, but he's short-sighted, and so he can't fly them. So instead he turns his attention and his life's work to designing and building planes, and it brings across the question of, you know, because Miyazaki's a pacifist, you know, is he glorifying war or not? And I don't think he was in the film, because the character in the film, he is very much just about kind of making and designing something that's perfect, you know. And again, it's a great war film because it kind of examines another side of it, and I love when films do that. And but also it brings across other things. It's just period drama straight up. There's no fantasy element like in other Miyazaki films. There's no like happy-go-lucky, you know, heartwarming story in it, really. Well, there's heartwarming stuff in it, but it's this most serious film he's ever done. It's pretty much a period drama, and I loved every second. Captivating stuff. Again, gorgeous animation. And that for me was a 10 out of 10. So the rest of these are all 10 out of 10 now. Number 6, Ida, the Polish film that won the award for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. Absolutely masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. The way it's shot is just incredible. It's framed in 4:3, black and white, and it's about this girl called Ida, who's a practicing nun, and before she kind of does her kind of her ceremony or whatever it is to become a full nun, she goes to her only, you know, living relative, her aunt, who is a bit completely different to her, you know, chain smoking, alcoholic kind of thing, and she takes her to try and find the final resting place of Ida's parents, and she finds out more about her background and where she's come from, basically. And again, the cinematography was just astounding and added so much to the film. Every frame felt like a perfectly constructed shot, and seeing Ida's journey was great. And it's a short film as well, and it does so much in such a short space of time. It was brilliant, absolutely like top tier stuff. Number 5, we have 12 Years a Slave. Finally watched it, and I have to agree, it was just that good. Harrowing stuff for sure, emotionally draining for sure, but absolutely great performances, an amazing true story, and yeah, what more can I say? Just go see it. It's so good. Number 4 is 2 films joint, and if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on this whole thing, I've done like a 20+ minute video reviewing them in depth and comparing the different versions and everything, so you can go check that out. I'll leave a link, hopefully in the description, or maybe like on the screen or something. Check the description, I'll leave it there. Number 4, the disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, Him and Her. This is a film project which stars James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain as a couple, a married couple who go through a troubling time in their relationship. And there's 2 films. There's The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, Him, and The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, Her. Both separate films, both around 90 minutes long, and they basically tell the same story but from the different perspective of him and her. And what's so brilliant about it is you rarely see her in him, and you rarely see him in her. So once you've seen one and you see the other, you're like, oh, so that's what they were doing, you know? And you get so much more the other side of the story. But also, in the very kind of, there's about 5 or 6 scenes in both films where they're both together and they share the same screen, and in both versions they're slightly different, and it was just such a fucking genius thing to do, and I just absolutely loved it. There is a 3rd version called The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, Them, which is an edit of both films together, and is around 2 hours, and it wasn't as powerful as the other two. I would recommend watching him and her as a double bill, as a 3-hour-long film. Just go see it. It's one, again, not talked about that much, but for me it was just, I fell in love with it, and I identified very strongly with what they went through in the film, and so maybe I kind of have a bias, but both great performances and both great films. When you put them together, they make something really cinematically special. Number 3 we have, and this was really tough for me because these top three films were all just so amazing, and when I saw the first one, which is going to be this one, number 3, I was like, that's the best film of the year, nothing's going to touch this. And then the number 1 film for me happened, and I was like, oh my god, this is and then there was another film which is my number 2, and that was like, oh my god, what do I do? But these 3 films are all great for so many different reasons. But number 3 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I'm going to be talking about it in a video coming up soon, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with it, but for me it's a perfect film almost. I mean, everything about it I love. All the performances, the story, the social commentary, the visual effects, the shades of grey morality, the character motivations, the music, the setting, everything. I just love it. Number 2 is Interstellar. Just amazing. It is Christopher Nolan's masterpiece. I fell in love with it a lot. I think it hinges on whether you buy the last 10 minutes or not. It hinges on how sentimental of a person you are, and it seems to me that that is what is stopping people from really embracing the film. Well, I shouldn't say for what it is, because if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's the way it is, subjective, but loved everything about it. And again, we've done like a ridiculous long review on this, so you can check that out as well. But yeah, Interstellar is my number 2 film of the year. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Can't wait for the Blu-ray. And number 1 is, of course, you probably guessed it by now, Boyhood. This is just a special film. It's now my number 5 favourite film of all time. It is a film that has never been done before, will probably never be done again, at least not as well as this. Should have won the Oscar, but, you know, it was just one of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had, seeing that film. And it's also down to where I saw it, but I just can't fault it. For me, it was just such a unique experience, and spoke to me in so many different ways. I think anyone could look at this film and relate to at least one part of it, you know. And just a great snapshot of someone growing up and life itself, and life itself. But also seeing Ethan Hawke as the dad grow up, and Patricia Arquette as the mother grow up, and she won the Oscar for the film, rightfully so. Overall, it's just it's a masterpiece, and if people didn't like it, oh well. But for me, it's absolutely amazing. So there we go. My throat is killing me now. I don't know what was wrong with it, so I apologise for that. I apologise for the distractions with Facebook dinging away and me checking stuff, but finally got through it. There's my top 50 films of 2014, and let's hope that my throat is recovered by the time I do my top 50 films of 2015. And just to let you know, films like The Theory of Everything, Whiplash, Birdman, I'm classing them as 2015 films, because that's when they came out in Europe, I guess. So they were not kind of valid for my own personal rules in terms of you know, when a film was released and when it could be counted as a top film of whatever year, because that's just the way I am, and I'm strange. But there you go. Let me know what your favourite films of 2014 were, and I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching.
Really nice guy, looks after his friends, he only chucks them about the place a couple of times on the weekend. Yeah, he's alright by me, apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool.